After you!
Canderous said. As Revan began the long descent, his mind started to spin. Brief flashes of dormant memories exploded into his consciousness, only to vanish before he could fully grasp them. He had an overwhelming sense of déjà vu. He knew with certainty he and Malak had explored the dark chamber beneath the ice, just as he and Canderous were exploring it now. The sights and sounds of his previous visit blended with his current surroundings, the images overlapping one another, obscuring his vision and making him dizzy. It got so bad that Revan had to close his eyes, clinging to the rungs of the ladder with a tense grip.
You okay?
Canderous asked from a few meters above. His voice echoed loudly off the rough-hewn rock walls.
My past is catching up with me,
Revan explained, shaking his head to dispel the vertigo. He waited a few more seconds, and when he opened his eyes again, everything had returned to normal. Taking a deep breath, he continued downward until he reached the bottom. The shaft ended in a tight, twisting tunnel that continued horizontally. Resisting the urge to draw his lightsaber, Revan pulled out another glow stick and started down the passage. Canderous followed close behind. The tunnel was narrow, forcing them to walk single file, but the ceiling was high enough that even Canderous didn't have to duck. It didn't take long for Revan to realize that they were walking on a slight decline, going ever deeper into the heart of the spear. The air around them grew warmer, causing them to unbutton their jackets and lower their hoods. As they continued on, Revan began to feel the unmistakable presence of the dark side. His hand dropped to his lightsaber at his belt, but he relaxed as he realized that the sensation was too faint to signify an immediate threat. Once the Force had been strong in this place, but over time, many decades or even centuries, it had faded away to little more than a memory. Eventually, the passage brought them into a large circular chamber hewn from the rock. Easily 30 meters across, the chamber was empty, save for a large stone crypt in the center.
What is this place?
Canderous whispered. I think it's the burial chamber of an ancient Sith Lord, Revan answered. Like the tombs on Korriban.
Why would they bury him here in this frozen wasteland?
To his own surprise, Revan knew the answer to that question.
He was in exile. He fled here with a handful of his fanatically loyal followers many centuries ago. When he died, they carved out this secret chamber to inter him so his enemies couldn't find and desecrate his remains. How do you know that?
Revan shrugged. I just know. Malak and I came here looking for this crypt. Something must have told us about it.
You mean someone like Mandalore?
Another memory came crashing in on Revan, triggered by the words of his friend. Mandalore the Ultimate lay dying at his feet. Coughing on the blood welling up in his lungs, he reached up and peeled off his mask, the most sacred symbol of his people.
It wasn't supposed to end like this,
he said, his voice soft and low.
They promised me victory. Only now do I see how I was betrayed.
Revan tilted his head to the side, puzzled. What are you talking about?
They tricked me. We were never meant to win this war. They used me and my people to test the Republic's strength.
Who used you?
The Sith.
The recollection ended abruptly, slipping quickly back into Revan's subconscious. But in bubbling up to the surface, it had released a host of other trapped memories, and they crashed over Revan like a wave, staggering him.
I remember,
he muttered, placing his hand on the wall for support.
I remember. What?
Canderous asked anxiously.
"What do you remember?"
Revan didn't answer. Instead, he crossed the chamber to the sarcophagus in the center. Carved into the granite sides was an interweaving pattern of circles and diagonal lines, most likely a family crest or seal. The tomb's heavy stone lid was smooth and unadorned, but as Revan drew closer, he could see marks and scratches along the edges, signs that it had been moved several times. Reaching out to the Force, Revan focused on the lid. After a moment, it began to move, the edge grating along the lip of the lower half of the sarcophagus as it slowly rose into the air. Careful not to let the heavy lid drop, he moved it off to the side and gently lowered it to the floor. He stepped up to the sarcophagus and peered inside. There were no remains to be seen. The enemies of the anonymous Sith Lord in the tomb must have found him after all, stealing his mummified corpse for some dark and twisted purpose. The missing body didn't come as a surprise to Revan, and he suddenly remembered that he and Malak had also found the sarcophagus empty. But they hadn't left it that way. Inside was a datacron, a small cube similar to the holocrons used by the Jedi and Sith to record their teachings for future generations. However, unlike those powerful artifacts, the datacron was not created using the Force. It was simply a repository of information. But Revan barely looked at the datacron. His attention was gripped by the object that lay beside it, Mandalore's mask. And as he reached in and picked up the sacred relic, his mind flashed back to the moment he had left it there.
"So Mandalore was telling the truth,"
Malak said.
"Did you really think his last words would be a lie?"
Revan asked.
"Now what?" "We have our proof," Revan said. "The Sith are not extinct. They have to be stopped."
"What about the Mandalorians?"
"Without the mask, they are nothing,"
Revan said, placing the mask inside the empty sepulchre. The memory ended, rudely snapping Revan back to the present. He lifted the mask and held it aloft so Canderous could see. The big man walked slowly toward him, as if in a daze. He didn't speak, but as he approached, his hands came up almost involuntarily, his fingers reaching out toward the lost symbol of his people.